camellia's been flowering for about 2 weeks, and there's still quite a few buds on there. Yeah, fantastic plant. I can see that my unfurled cherry ingram started to flower. It's a really understated plant, but I love these little blue flowers. I had to cut it back after the frost. This is an evergreen plant, but it can get a bit tatty, but if you cut it back hard, it will always come back. Did the same with these Heucheras as well. Now Heucheras are hardy, but quite a few of the leaves are damaged, and I cut them right back and they've sprung right back into action. I've enjoyed looking at the red buds in this Skimmia all winter, and now the flowers have come out. A really nice April flowering plant. I've planted another Sarcacocca. This one's called Winter Gem. Now where I planted it here is a bit of a tricky spot. Most of the year it's in shade. There's a little bit of sunlight on it now, which will be gone by this afternoon. But it's a great little plant for a shady spot, and you can still smell the last of the flowers that really take over the garden when they bloom in the winter. There's some more Heucheras here, different colours. Got purple palace, an old variety. I cut that right back to the ground, and it's really starting to grow back again now. I've also got a lime marmalade. This really stands out in the garden. And also I've got the sister plant, which is just called marmalade. Really interesting plant. I had a Heuchera similar to this in the same place, but it wasn't that good, and I think this one will be better. But again, these are great for shade or partial shade. The common forest flame plants that you see all over the country. It's a fantastic plant though, with the new red foliage in spring and these nice flowers. This cordyline plant is really growing strongly. Don't know how tall it's going to get, but I've got a feeling it's going to be as big as that tree in a few years. Now, there's a little ground cover plant here, a little Veronica called Choisya Blue. It's been flowering for about a month. It started in March, and I think you can cut this back and it'll come back again. So it's a bit of a surprise, as I planted it back in autumn, a little plug plant, and it's really put on some growth. Now next to it I have this Berberis Admiration, which has just started leafing out over the past month, and for me this is as good as any flower. It's a really striking plant. You can actually see there's a few flowers on there, some little yellow flowers. Not much to them, but they do add a little bit to the plant. But it's a fantastic plant for adding colour in the garden, and as you can see it contrasts with this Choisya plant here, Aztec Gold. That will have white flowers on it, probably around about the middle of May. love the colour of this Hebe Pascal, and by the looks of things it's been completely untouched by the frost. In my earlier video I did actually show a couple of Hebes that have suffered a bit of damage, but this has come through fine, and this is quite a windy spot here, so I'm really impressed that it's come through, and I'm loving the colour on this, the mixture of the green, purple, almost red. This quince normally starts flowering in February, but it's come out a bit later now. Quite a few of the flowers are actually hidden in the bush. Once this flowers, you can cut it right back and it will really spring into growth through the growing season, and then you'll see the flowers next year on that new growth that come this year. Here's another Berberis Admiration again. Looks fantastic, particularly when you contrast it with plants with other variegated foliage. I've had to cut this back hard. In the previous video I mentioned that it was really badly damaged by the frost. It's one of my favourite Hebes, Wiri charm. Now, we've had some really cold weather and spring hasn't really got going. We had like maybe a week where we had some nice weather, but most of the time it's been quite low temperatures. So we'll come back to this in May, see if it's really started to recover or not. But this is a plant that I do not want to put onto the compost heap because I really love it. It's bounced back before. When we had the beast from the east in 2018, it was hit hard then, so hopefully it's going to recover. These Hebes look okay, only a little bit of damage, and it looks like they've got through another harsh winter, unlike the Wiri charm. However, there is one here. This is my variegated Hebe. I've had to cut this one back as well because it was really badly damaged by the frost, and only time will tell whether it will come back. I may find myself replacing this in a couple of months. But this one here, Albicans, has been battered by the wind and the cold temperatures, and it's not been touched at all. I would say this is probably one of the toughest Hebes you can grow. Now in the front garden I have a variety of this called Red Edge, and that was really exposed, and again that's not been damaged either. About 2 weeks ago this peach tree was full of blossom, and it's starting to fade now. Now there are a couple of problems with peach trees. One is they flower early and there's not many pollinators about, and the second problem I mentioned before is the peach leaf curl. Hopefully it hasn't been too bad this year, and you never know, I might get a few peaches from it this year. But even though it's got its problems, I think it's quite an ornamental tree in leaf, so I keep it despite its lack of fruit. Now here there's a small apple tree. Every year this gets a lot of fruit. Now one of the benefits to this, as opposed to the peach tree, is it flowers later, and this is normally full of bees when the flowers are out. So apple trees, as you've probably guessed, are a lot more reliable in our climate. I can now see the flowers on the pear tree. This is a nice little dwarf variety, good for a patio. Now, this can also flower a bit early, but it should be okay. We should be able to get some fruit on this. I have to admit, it has been quiet for this time of year with regards to the bees. Normally, there's enough to get them out of the hives and onto the plants. There's quite a bit of flowers out this time of year, particularly the fruit trees. But we should be okay with this. I'm hoping we'll get some fruit later on in the year. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.